Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Erasing the Stigma. Today, I'm super excited to be here with Mr. Rossie Stone, who is an ambassador for Dyslexia Scotland. So, would you be able to give listeners a snapshot of who you are?
Well, essentially, I am a dyslexic artist and entrepreneur who wants to make engaging educational content or turn educational information into entertainment. And my main way of doing that is through comics. Why? Because they are visual, and I think particularly if you aim to make them fun and entertaining, it breaks down so many motivational barriers. So I think the biggest kicker to dyslexia and other forms of non-typical ways of learning can often be confidence. So making it fun and make it people feel comfortable with the material helps as well. Also, comics break information down box by box, panel by panel, and so that's why I choose that as my main format. I'd like to do it in other formats too. So essentially, seeing as a fun educational content creator.
I absolutely love your comics. So, Dekko Comics is the name of Mr. Stone's comics, and I think that they're so amazing because they make learning fun. And so, what I was wondering is that you said that you have dyslexia, and so whether in your own experience with dyslexia or making these comics and bringing these comics to kids, have you noticed that when kids are having fun while learning through your comics, they become more resilient to the challenges that they might face due to their dyslexia or other language-based learning difference?
So do I find that these comics help them with their language learning based differences and so on?
Yes.
Essentially. Yeah, we tested these comics on our young audience before even taking them to market. Before even I even made the company was started off a Kickstarter campaign, and before even that, I made some prototypes to test them on young people at several schools, varying ages. And I wanted to test if they would engage with the content, if they would remember and retain the content, and if they found the content easy to understand. And that was a mixture of kids who had no learning struggles at all. Some had dyslexia, some had autism, etc. And across the board, everyone loved them. And the children who read the comics 3 to 4 times could remember far more content than the ones who'd read it just once. Hence, it could be used as a revision tool, and they were happy to read it a few times. And in terms of understanding it, some of my prototype content was actually included um, advanced higher biology information, things like animal cells and plant cells, things that they don't teach for ages 9 to 12, which is what the comics are primarily for. And yet the children didn't understand it through the context of advanced biology, but they understood it through the context of the comic. They were still 2 months later telling their teachers what chloroplasts were and what photosynthesis was, and based on the story in the comic. So it was quite exciting to see how well you could translate the information to the readers, even if they had dyslexia or other neurodivergencies. So, and since releasing the comics professionally, we keep getting all this lovely feedback that continues that. We have parents send photos of their children reading the comics on holiday. They're dyslexic and highly dyslexic young readers who usually wouldn't pick up a book, who usually just throw books down and say they can't read, and yet they're reading about maths and literacy and science and all these things while they're supposed to be having their leisure time. So it's been very validating to see that. And we've had people tell us that it's improving their relationship with reading. We've had them saying that they use them for their tests and exams. Yeah, there's been a lot of really good feedback to say that these comics are doing their job, essentially.
That is so wonderful, and I'm so happy for you that you are getting such good feedback because I personally think that the idea behind these comics is amazing, and partly because of the reason that you were talking about when you were doing the preliminary test, that across the board there was positive results. So, not just students with language-based learning differences. And I think that that is so amazing because in my own experience, and I know studies have shown this, a lot of students with language-based learning differences feel low self-esteem because partly because of the ostracization they feel when they're in class and maybe they have to be provided with supplementary materials or be pulled out of class and they feel like they're not a part of the group. But what's so cool about the comics is that it's definitely beneficial for kids with language-based learning differences, but it's also beneficial for kids who don't have language-based learning differences. So you could have a classroom of students reading your comics and they could all benefit, and you're not able to tell who has learning difference.
Well, that was a key thing that I really wanted these resources to be, because someone who went through school with dyslexia, I know firsthand how kind of degrading it can feel when you're given special material and you're taken out to be given, a special assistance in class. And for some people that would really work. And it's not that some of that material wasn't helpful, but I hated the feeling of being excluded,
Mhm.
and being noticed for, what I felt were the wrong reasons. I hated the teacher, um, as asking me to answer a question in the class because I knew I would look stupid, or I felt I would look stupid to my classmates, and that was my worst feeling. So I really wanted these comics to be used both for children who could really benefit from them, but also for children who don't have any struggles at all, because it's just a comic at the end of the day. That's why it focuses on being entertainment first, education second. So as long as it's fun to read and the information doesn't come across as preachy or anything, children who with no struggles will enjoy reading them too. And it means that a lot of neurodivergent people can open up and feel safe with these resources, knowing that it's something that is for everyone to enjoy. We try and promote them as especially helpful for neurodiversity, but not exclusively helpful, you know.
Yes, I think that's amazing. And I watched, I think it might have been like a TED Talk that you were hosting or something, and you I don't know if this was your own quote or someone else's quote, but you quoted that learning is never boring, but how it's presented can be. And I think it's so cool that you guys focus on the entertainment first and the education after, because it motivates people to learn. I mean, like I'm a student and I know it's not always fun to have to sit down and read a very long and dense book, but if I got this in comic form, it would definitely motivate me too. So it just creates a new relationship with learning. And so something that's interesting about the comics is that with the idea of that you're presenting the information with entertainment first rather than education, when I think of information being presented as the education first, it's usually presented solely through words. So a lot of students with language-based learning differences struggle because it's dense reading materials. However, with your comics, you're employing the senses and you're using fun visuals. So how would you say learning through the senses is more beneficial for, I would say, all students, or more impactful rather than learning solely through words?
Of course. I think that personally, it is more powerful. I think words are a hugely important skill that we all need to get better at. I mean, like, to this day, I still find reading harder than the average person. Like, it will take me longer than the average person, and yet I use it every day. I use it to read the emails that you and me have been sending to organize this meeting. I use it in my work. I use it obviously in social media and so on. So being good with words is absolutely a vital skill, but it's still a skill nonetheless. And we're not all born with the ability to use skills. We don't come out of the womb and know how to use words. We don't say hi to the doctor. We have to learn that as we grow, and we're all different. Some of us are walking at different times, some of us are talking at different times. But as soon as we're born, it doesn't seem to matter whether we have dyslexia, autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and so on. We all start to engage with the world through our five senses. We all start to see things, move around, feel things, taste things. And why is entertainment? Why do we focus on entertainment so primarily? Why is it such a powerful force? Because it goes straight to our senses more often than not. A good looking picture, a nice feeling piece of fabric, a good tasting piece of food, good sounding music. And we use entertainment as a funnel to communicate the education through, because if it's education first and the entertainment is just decoration in the background, then you're just going to have the same problem where the hard stuff confronts them first. um, Reading, for example, is undoubtedly a form of entertainment in my view, like a really good book or a really good um, factual piece, nonfiction. But it's a form of entertainment that requires a skill in order to get into. and therefore entertainment can really help you get in with that skill and really help you break through those barriers that you're struggling with and you think you can't do. It can boost your confidence, because entertainment, our five senses have been with us as a human race for a very long time. We were seeing things and memorizing things through our visuals, through our senses of taste and hearing, long before we invented the forms of literacy that we use today. And so why not utilize them? Why not use all the power and all the connection they have to memory? Like, for example, smell is one of the strongest links to memory we have, apparently. Why not utilize those senses to enhance the reading experience? Because entertainment is so often naturally involved with that, and entertainment is made to be fun and engaging. So I think there's a whole lot of untapped potential in there, simply just because we're not used to using it that way. We're always used to putting education first and entertainment second, and thus entertainment becomes a bit of a gimmick. Whereas if you could use entertainment first, you do the first and most important thing, in my opinion, which is you engage with them, you give them a reason to be interested, and you give them other means. You give them more than just words to engage with that information and to remember that information by, more than just words, because as humans, we are more than just reading machines. And using more than just words helps you and just gives you more to latch onto and more to retain that information with.
Yes, and like you were pointing out before, I mean, if you look back into our history, we didn't start off with writing books or reading books. We started off with pictorial representation. And so it's definitely an important tactic to use. And I mean, you might have the experience of, like you were saying, with smell, smelling a scent and being brought back to a past memory. And that's such a powerful thing that this is something that we should use. And on that note, are there any ways that you would advise parents outside of using your comics, where they can employ the senses and to make learning fun and promoting entertainment first and education second with their own kids at home?
Well, absolutely. Because like essentially where the whole Dekko Comics idea came from was my own experience when I got so fed up of trying to study my exams the conventional way and still failing despite the extra support I was getting. I just decided when it came to my studies, or revision, as we say in the UK, I just decided that if I was going to fail anyway, I might as well enjoy it. And I knew that comics had never been a problem for me to read. They'd actually gotten me into reading in the first place, because the pictures engaged me. I've always loved visuals, and that encouraged me to read the words eventually. And when I was the age of 7 or 8, and I could read a comic from cover to cover. I could remember very clearly what happened in the comic. I could read it 3 or 4 times without being asked to. So I knew comics weren't a problem. I also knew that story-based computer games were a great way for me to read. I learned a lot of my vocabulary that way because video games that don't have any voice actors and they just have text encouraged me to read. And if I was really invested in the story of the game and in the characters, I'd really want to know what was going on and I'd want to know what that word meant and so on. I couldn't invent my own computer game, but I could make my own comic. So I turned my revision notes, broke it all down, and just turned it into comics and focused on making it fun and worthwhile reading. So I made fun, daft characters, many of which host in the Dekko Comics of today. And they were just instantly became more fun to read and remember with. It felt more like remembering what happened in an episode of The Simpsons than it did remembering what happened in a worksheet, because now they were designed to be fun and funny and all that, but I'd also now got a visual and a point of narrative to landmark all the information with and remember it by. And that's why I was saying earlier about more than just words. So for parents wanting to use visuals more, because like this got me my first grade A in my school history. This is what led me on to wanting to eventually make Dekko Comics one day. And it does work. And it's worked for the other people that I've read the comics or I've done workshops with to help them find their own way. You can use, you don't have to always get them to make a comic, even though it is very useful. You can also get them to, if they really love drawing, maybe draw a picture to do with that, the information they've got to engage with. And even if it's something like maths, maybe they can write the times tables inside the picture or have the picture engaging with numbers in an interesting way, or get them to draw a robot and the robot has to solve the sums in its own belly or something. But the more you can tie in with natural fun elements, the better. You could also get a poster of something that the child really likes and relates to, and maybe put post-it notes on it with facts. And once a day, the child gets to take off a post-it note. And if they can remember what was on that post-it note, they don't need to put it back on again. And it's almost like a game where you've got to get all the post-it notes to come off. But other techniques, particularly ones that I've used for myself, they include one way I actually learned my Shakespeare quotes when I was at school, because I found Shakespeare very hard to read, was through music. I sang them privately, of course, but I sang them to my favorite songs that I liked to listen to when I was younger. And I just used the tune of the song, and I just shoehorned the words of the Shakespeare quote into it. And the tune of the song really made it easy to repeat. And the structure of the song and the tune really made it easy to remember what the quote was. And it stuck in my head far more effectively than if I was just reading it out and trying to remember it in my head. And it was far more fun that way, because I could actually be humming my own revision. And other ways include, what if your child loves puzzles? What if the child loves puzzles but really struggles with spelling? Why not make a word search for them, where they've got to find the words that they find difficult to spell in the word search? You could even have, they often have word banks in next to a word search. Maybe in the word bank, the words could be spelled deliberately wrong, and the child's got to find the word spelled correctly within the word search. It's using whatever. Look at what your child drifts towards. Look at what they find engaging. If they love Minecraft, is there a way of using Minecraft for this? Like, design this period of history in a Minecraft map, and that means the child has to learn about and look at pictures of and read bits of information of what this history period involved, so they can accurately make and replicate this period within Minecraft or so on. Like, there's lots of ways to do it. It's just when you put the entertainment fact first, and then you see how you can fit the education stuff into it, that's where the magic happens, in my opinion.
That is beyond amazing advice. And I actually employ some of those tactics as well. I would say in school, my favorite subject is biology and science. And one of the reasons that I would definitely attribute to that becoming my favorite subject was because I was able to use drawings to take science notes. And I love drawings. And that really motivated me to learn more about science, because the more I learned, the more I could draw. And like learning the periodic table, I still know the song, and that's the only way I know the periodic table. So I just think that is such wonderful advice, especially because, like you were saying before, that you were thinking that you might fail. So why not enjoy it? And I think that's such a liberating thing to think about, because I feel like often with students and parents, it's that fear of failure that kind of perpetuates arguments in the house, of those typical "why aren't you studying" arguments, because you don't want your child to fail. And of course, you don't want your child to fail, but maybe that arguing or pushing your child to constantly study in a way that is not necessarily built for them, I don't think that's necessarily the right approach. But like you were saying, oftentimes with kids, there is a fight of whether your child is studying or doing an entertainment kind of activity. So maybe it's video games versus studying, and you can't get your kids to stop playing video games. Well,
Mm.
why not integrate the studying into the video games? Like, I think that's such a revolutionary idea, because then it makes it fun and you're not arguing with your child, and it takes away that fear of failure, because you guys are just having an amazing time learning the information. So I just am so blown away by your advice. I think it's amazing.
Well, it's great to hear from you. It's great to hear that you're kind of applying this stuff yourself already as well. Like, and that's the exciting thing to me, is that you say it's revolutionary, but actually, I think what I love about this is how simple it is, and how it's very much not rocket science. It's not like this new thing in the brain that we found that will allow us to study better. It's just about using completely what's been under our nose this whole time, and using it in a way that some of us might not be used to using it, because a lot of us have been using, color coded notes, or little pictures in our study notes, just to help bring a bit of visualization to them, and just to help us, make them more appealing to us and so on. But there's just so much more we can do. And with blending the two, like, if we saw entertainment less of a distraction, which is how it's often seen, And you can understand why, like, that person's doing something nothing to do with their studying when they should be studying. But if you saw it less as a distraction, more like the solution, think about it. Entertainment is something that the person is confident with, and they've got some familiarity about it. For example, with a computer game, if they enjoy a computer game, it doesn't matter if they're rubbish at it at first, it will engage them and they'll become masters of it by the end of it. So yes, if you can use entertainment as a toolbox, as a way to delve into and see um, how many more different ways can this child or this person learn the same information, but in a different format, in a different presentation. By using this entertainment, you can see amazing results and a lot more motivation, because like I can speak for myself that when it comes to reading a huge chunk of text, my motivation's already gone before I've even started, because it is just a wall of text. And I know instantly it's a chore because it's something that I'm not good at. And in my less disciplined times, I would have wanted to go and do something else. But now I've got the will and the drive and the discipline to do it. And I also know I've got the techniques if it's something that I really do need to remember. I know that I can draw on my comic techniques and my music techniques and so on. So yeah, there's a lot of great potential here, but I love how simple it is. It's just I would say, in terms of getting the most out of it, it's just about getting into the habit of it. It's like a habitual change. And if you really want to, if companies really want to take this and run more, I would just say try doing it in a way that absolutely embraces the entertainment part of it, and tries to make it as fun as possible so that it's fun with or without the educational element. Until they start doing that more, people aren't stupid. People will always know that the pure entertainment version is better than the educational one. You want to make it so fun that the educational one seems like it's as good, if not better, than the entertainment comparable, if that makes sense.
That definitely makes sense. And one thing that I just find is very interesting is like when we are getting younger kids and toddlers to learn, we do employ learning through entertainment usually. We have very fun TV shows and fun books, and it makes your kid excited about learning this information. But I feel like that excitement kind of peters out when it transforms into those fun and adventurous books and activities into this dense reading. So I just love that you're taking back the entertainment into learning. And the last question that I want to ask you is, what is one thing that you think listeners can do to erase the stigmas behind language-based learning differences?
To erase the stigmas,
Mhm.
I would say that it's a really good question. I mean, it's not one that should have stumped me, by the way. I don't know how I've been derailed by that. I think basically, like I was saying earlier, I think confidence is the biggest knock to neurodiversity. When someone's struggling with something that most other people around them don't seem to, or when you're going into a class and you know that there's a high chance you're going to look stupid. And the horrible thing about feeling stupid is that you feel like you're inferior, like people are looking down at you, they're laughing at you, sort of thing. Um, and when you're feeling the lack of confidence, it can often lead you to almost play up to that stigma more, because you become sort of like quiet or sheltered, or maybe you become a clown or something, which only plays up to that idea that people have of you as someone like incompetent or less smart than you are, and so on. So I think doing things to raise the confidence of neurodiversity is a great way to start. And yeah, spreading awareness about what neurodiversity actually is, about what dyslexia actually is, how it's nothing to do with stupidity. When I did my dyslexia test at the age of 11, it turned out that my IQ this whole time had actually been above average, and I would have never have dreamt of that when I was younger. So to like spread awareness, as there is already quite a lot going on, spread awareness of how neurodiversity has nothing to do with stupidity, how it's much more widespread than we think, and so on, but also to boost the confidence for those who have it, to show that you absolutely can do anything you set your mind to, and that your mind working a different way, it prefers other things more than others. There's nothing wrong with that, and that you can still get better at the things you struggle with by embracing those ways. Again, hence why entertainment's a powerful approach, because a lot of our natural interests and skills lie in what we find what we go to for entertainment. Um, yeah, I think boosting the confidence, boosting what um, giving people more tools to see, to play with and explore how they can achieve those things they're struggling with and get around those hurdles is really important. Continuing to spread awareness, and I would finally say more, it sounds biased, but more resources like Dekko, and by that I mean not like they have to be educational comics, but I mean like resources that are made not just for those with dyslexia or those with autism and so on, more inclusive resources that are kind of there's benefit for everyone. Because like really good readers can still appreciate a resource that has visuals as well as words in it, sort of thing. So more inclusive resources, and where a person with dyslexia can shine, if not thrive, because it has more of the things that they might be very good at, visual elements, or problem solving elements and so on, and allows them to feel smart, feel good in that environment. Like I felt smart at school when I got to do the things I was good at, whether it was acting, whether it was drawing, whether it was creative writing. When I was in my element and I could talk about something or do something that I was good at, that gave me a lot of confidence there. And it showed, it made me feel, and that confidence helped show other people that I wasn't stupid either. It really helped. Like a lot of people who I knew used to think I was stupid started to grow a lot of respect for me when they saw me act on stage and they saw that it was a skill I could do really well. So I guess it's all linked then, by providing more opportunities for children or young people to use the other skills that aren't necessarily conventional school skills, and to show and more ways for them to access work in a way that allows them to shine. I'm not putting all this in very good words, but essentially, I think more inclusive resources that allow neurodiverse people to use their skills in a way with more confidence, and that is inclusive, so that it's not just something for them and something else for everyone else. Something that allows them to feel confident within the environment of everyone else, rather than special material.
And I think that is really important what you were saying about when you were telling kind of your own story, that you felt, as you said, stupid in school, but then it kind of transformed into you feeling confident when you were put in an environment where you thrived. And I think that is such a key example of the fact that it's if you are struggling in a school environment, it's really not you. It's the way that the information is being presented. So if
Mhm.
you think you are stupid, you are not stupid. It might just be the fact that the information is not being made accessible to you. And that is just such an important thing to remember, because schools are very rigid in the way that they provide information. But to be frank, you're only required, at least in the US, to be in school until the age of 18. After that, you can take the reins on the way you learn information, and you are not always going to be put in this box for the rest of your life where you have to learn information in a certain way. And I think we should teach kids that at a younger age, like you were saying. And I don't think it's biased at all. You are so amazingly humble, but I will um talk about Dekko Comics for you because I think it is absolutely amazing. And I'm truly not just saying that. Like, when I saw Dekko Comics, I was just so blown away because, like you were saying before, it's like it, presenting information in a fun way that should be something that is a simple thing that we should think that is normal, but it's really not. And I just think what you are doing is amazing. And I hope more companies, like you were saying, do inclusive, fun presentations of information, because it's really amazing. And in the meantime, when we are lacking that information, I really, really, really hope that all listeners at least go check out Dekko Comics, if not buy them, because when I tell you, in my own experience, learning information in a way that is fun will, I promise, change your learning experience. So I really appreciate all your advice. And I just beyond commend you for Dekko Comics because I am just so blown away by your comics. They're amazing.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words, and I commend you for the work you're doing. Because like it's everything I'm saying about spreading awareness and building confidence and shining a light on that people aren't stupid and that there's lots of things out there that can help them, lots of people out there who are doing things to help them. That's all things that you're doing and people like you are doing. So like it does make a difference. Like if your, episodes reach even just, one or two people who wouldn't have found these answers if it weren't for your awareness you were spreading, it's already very worthwhile. Because that's what I told myself when I was just starting Dekko Comics. Like I didn't know if this was going to work or if people would even want this. But if I could just provide the kind of solution that I got to my schoolwork to at least one, well, maybe not even one, but like to 10 other people like me to make a difference to 10 other people in the world, then it would have been worthwhile because I know the impact it had on my life. So thank you for what you do too.
Thank you. And I think that, like you said, I completely agree. And I think it's just one person at a time. And just going real quick back to what you were saying about spreading awareness, I feel like when people hear the idea of spreading awareness, they kind of think that it has to be on a large scale. And really, it doesn't. Like, you
No.
can talk to a single person and tell them either your story or your experience with a language-based learning difference, and just talking to one person can make so much more of a difference because it's just one more person who is enlightened and educated. So I really appreciate your kind words as well. And I just really appreciate having the opportunity to speak with you today.
Absolute pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Have a great time.